Welcome to Question It, the podcast where we rethink health, wellness, and personal growth. I'm Kevin, your host, chief inquisitor, and sometimes guinea pig, exploring fresh paths to a better life. Let's dive into today's episode and get started. Does life feel like a struggle? Maybe it's time to reprioritize your most basic needs. Welcome back to another episode of Question It. Today, we're going to once again use Google's Notebook LM, the artificial intelligence, to summarize in a much more succinct way a previous version of the Question It podcast. And I hope you'll take stock in today's episode because I think by really prioritizing your most basic needs, it can really help get over this hurdle that you might be having day to day. And even if you're not struggling, it could be a really great way to help level up in your life. Because when our most basic needs are being met, that's when life really starts to take off.
Ever feel like you're just barely treading water? Like life is just way too much?
Yeah, I think we all have those moments.
Today, we're going to dive into something that might just help in those moments. Like a lifeline.
Okay, I like the lifeline analogy.
It's all about our basic human needs. You know, the ones we tend to forget about.
The stuff we take for granted.
Exactly. Especially when things get tough. Focusing on these needs can be, well, kind of powerful. Like a reset button.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So we're going to tap into the work of Kevin, the host of the Question It podcast.
I've heard of him.
He's had some really interesting ideas.
Yeah.
Like this whole concept that when our needs aren't met, it shows up as bad behavior.
I see where he's going with that.
It's like our internal system's like, hey, pay attention, something's off here.
Instead of judging the behavior, we look for the need behind it.
Right. So let's break these needs down, starting with the most basic, the physical one.
What building blocks?
Kevin outlines 6 of these. And he's big on this idea of hierarchy, like they're not all equal.
Some are more essential than others.
Exactly. Starting with the one we literally can't live without. Air.
Can't argue with that.
He says, we've only got, 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Before things go south without air.
It's that primal survival instinct, right? Even a little breathing trouble freaks us out.
Just think about holding your breath. Like, try it for just a minute. It gets uncomfortable fast.
Yeah, we're wired to breathe. It's non-negotiable.
And Kevin says when this need is unmet, we'll do anything to get it back. Anything.
Our bodies are programmed for survival, and breathing is step 1.
Then there's shelter. Protection from the elements, you know.
That safe haven.
Right. Imagine being caught in a blizzard. Or, like, the scorching desert.
Those extremes would be unbearable quickly.
It's not just about comfort, it's survival. I remember reading somewhere, like, in extreme cold, you could be in real trouble within hours.
Yeah. Regulating body temperature, that's key.
Shelter keeps us safe from, well, nature's not so nice side.
And that discomfort, it's a strong motivator.
It pushes us to find shelter, whether it's a warm coat or, like, building a fire.
Or a solid roof over our heads.
Next up, sleep. Kevin suggests we can only go about 24 hours without it before things get really weird.
Weird how?
They even mention hallucinations, which is kind of scary. Like, our brains just start messing with us.
Think about after just one bad night's sleep. You're groggy, you can't focus.
Yeah, and long-term sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level of bad. Affects everything.
Our thinking, our health.
It's crazy how we, like, devalue sleep in our society.
No, go.
All the time.
Kevin has this interesting tip, though. Focus on a consistent wake-up time. Regulate sleep naturally.
I'm always trying to force myself to bed early.
This takes the pressure off. Let your body find its natural rhythm.
Okay, that's interesting. I might have to try that.
Give it a shot.
Now, something I know Kevin is really passionate about. Water. He's all about hydration.
Absolutely vital.
He's convinced a lot of us, especially older folks, are chronically dehydrated.
And don't even realize it.
He's got this formula, like 2/3 of your body weight in ounces per day.
Sounds like a lot, but water does so much. Regulates temperature, flushes out waste.
He even claims, like, good hydration is more energizing than coffee or sugar.
And he's speaking from experience. He says he's felt the difference.
You know, I'm always reaching for that extra coffee. Maybe I need to try more water.
Yeah, it's a shot, right.
Next up, food. Kevin's big on clean eating, especially when life gets tough. Cut the sugar, alcohol, processed stuff.
It's all about nourishing your body. giving it what it needs to function.
Especially when you're stressed, struggling.
He's not about deprivation, though. He gets that food is enjoyable. It's about fuel.
Makes sense. You run your car on bad gas, it's going to sputter.
Same with our bodies. We need that good fuel to feel our best.
And then Kevin mentioned something that seems obvious, but it's important.
Let me guess. Breathing.
Well, we covered that.
Yeah.
It's urination and defecation.
Okay, yeah, those are vital too. We don't always talk about them, but
They're essential for getting rid of waste, keeping everything running smoothly.
basic but crucial.
So we've got those 5 big physical needs: air, shelter, sleep, water, and food, plus those essential functions. But Kevin goes beyond the physical.
There's more.
He talks about another need, equally crucial. He even calls it a global epidemic, which is kind of concerning.
Wow, okay, lay it on me.
It's the need for love, connection, belonging. He says it's just as important as those physical needs.
Interesting. So not just romantic love, but like feeling connected in general.
Exactly. Family, friends, a sense of community, even feeling part of something bigger than yourself.
Like you belong, you're seen, you matter.
Right. And this is where that bad behavior idea really kicks in. Kevin thinks when this need for love and connection isn't met, that's when those behaviors pop up.
Like trying to fill the void.
Yeah, it's an attempt to soothe the pain of not feeling connected.
Powerful way to reframe it. Not about excusing bad behavior, but understanding where it comes from.
And he points out, those early childhood experiences, they shape a lot of this. If those early relationships weren't great, it can really impact us later on.
Makes sense. We're always trying to make up for that lack, sometimes in not so healthy ways.
And Kevin thinks nurturing healthy relationships, even dealing with past hurts, can be so healing. He even suggests using his Uchi app for this.
His Uchi app, what's that?
It's a platform for deeper conversations, like really connecting with people, encourages vulnerability, listening, all that good stuff.
So taking that need for connection and putting it online.
Yeah. I wonder if he sees technology as a potential solution for that epidemic of loneliness he talks about.
That's a great question. We'll definitely have to explore that more.
All right, so quick recap. 6 basic needs, starting with the physical: air, shelter, sleep, water, food, plus those essential functions. And now we're adding this crucial need for love, connection, belonging. And get this, he's got a bonus need for us too.
A bonus need. Okay, now you've got me hooked. I can't wait to hear what that is.
You and me both. But before we dive into that, I think we need a quick break.
Before the break, we were talking about those cries for help. Like our behavior is trying to tell us something. Especially when we look at that whole loneliness epidemic Kevin talks about.
It's kind of crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're more connected than ever, but feeling more alone.
It's a weird paradox. And Kevin, he digs into this, talks about how, like, way back when, connection was key for survival.
Like our ancestors depending on each other for hunting and stuff.
Exactly. Back then, it was life or death. But that need for connection, it's still in us, deep down.
Yeah, like that drive to belong, to be part of something bigger.
Totally. But the way we live now, it kind of pushes us apart. Always got to be independent, achieve stuff on our own.
I know, I fall into that trap, thinking I got to do it all myself. And honestly, it gets tiring. And yeah, lonely sometimes.
Kevin's all about bringing that sense of community back. And it doesn't have to be some big thing,
Like, what? Just chatting with your neighbor.
Exactly. A real conversation, calling a friend, heck, even just smiling at someone on the street.
Those little things, they do add up. Just acknowledging each other, it's powerful.
And it ties back to that whole unmet needs thing. Loneliness hurts, And when we don't address that, we try to fill that gap however we can.
So like too much social media, or even isolating ourselves more.
It's like we're grasping at straws, trying to make that pain go away.
And Kevin's not saying those behaviors are good. It's about understanding the why. Recognizing that we're wired for connection. So when someone's acting out, it's not about judging them. It's about asking, what's going on here? What need are they trying to meet?
Exactly. It's about compassion, understanding that we're all doing our best, and connection, real connection. That's powerful stuff. It helps us heal, grow.
So we've got the 6 basic needs: air, shelter, sleep, water, food, plus that deep need for connection. But didn't you say Kevin adds a bonus need? I'm really curious about that.
Oh, yeah. This is where he goes beyond just surviving, He talks about the need for purpose, like having something that gives your life meaning.
Like that fire in your belly, a reason to get up in the morning.
That's it. And it doesn't have to be some huge world-changing thing.
So it could be a hobby, volunteering, even just finding meaning in your work.
Absolutely. It's about that internal feeling, feeling aligned. And Kevin, he believes when we tap into that purpose, it brings us joy, for sure, but it also gives us strength when things get tough.
Because we know what we're working towards, what matters most.
Right. It's all connected, you see. You can't thrive if you're neglecting those basic needs, the physical stuff. But without connection, without purpose, something's missing.
Like we need all the pieces for a truly fulfilling life.
That's a great way to put it. And Kevin talks about this, actually. He brings up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Basic needs at the bottom, self-actualization at the top.
Right. But Kevin's point is, it's not so rigid. It's not like you climb the ladder and that's it. Our needs are always interacting.
So it's more dynamic than just a pyramid.
Absolutely. He uses this example. Imagine someone going through a bad breakup. Their need for connection, it's so strong, they might forget about the physical stuff.
So they're not eating, sleeping, maybe even out in bad weather because the emotional pain is so intense.
Exactly. It shows how our needs can shift depending on what's going on.
We're not robots, right?
Yeah.
We're complex. And all those experiences, those emotions, they affect our needs.
And I think that's Kevin's big takeaway, to approach ourselves and others with curiosity and to understand that every behavior, it's got a need behind it.
It's about looking deeper. So those bad behaviors, they're not some personality flaw. They're like clues.
Right. They're telling us something. Now, you might be thinking, where do things like money or status fit in?
Yeah, those feel pretty important these days.
Kevin acknowledges that. They're not basic in the same way as air or water, but...
But you need money for food, shelter, all that.
Exactly. And social status can affect our opportunities. Kevin even suggests something like universal basic income.
Universal basic income, what's that?
It's like a guaranteed income for everyone, regardless of their job or anything. He thinks it could help people meet those basic needs more easily.
So it's like taking the pressure off survival.
Exactly. Then people can focus on the emotional stuff, the things that bring them joy and purpose.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is. But Kevin thinks it could change everything. Like, imagine if everyone's basic needs were met. No more worrying about survival.
It's like shifting from scarcity to abundance.
Exactly. And it goes back to his whole message of prioritizing needs, not just for ourselves, but for society as a whole. Because when we ignore those needs, when we're always operating from lack, it affects everyone,
It creates this ripple effect.
Exactly. Our well-being is connected to everyone else's. And to the planet, too. It's all intertwined.
That's a powerful thought.
And it's a great reminder as we wrap up this deep dive into human needs. Think about what we've talked about today.
So when we're feeling lost, overwhelmed,
Kevin says, go back to basics.
Ask yourself, what need am I neglecting right now? What can I do for myself, even just a little thing, to feel better?
It's about taking care of ourselves.
Not in a selfish way, but because it's important.
And remember, those bad behaviors, the ones we judge.
It might just be cries for help, signals.
So instead of judging, we can be curious. Ask ourselves, what's this behavior trying to tell me?
And by understanding those needs, by meeting them, we can heal, we can grow, we can connect.
It's like Kevin says, it's not just about surviving.
It's about thriving, living a life that's meaningful, connected, joyful.
So as you go about your day, check in with yourself. What are you hungry for? And what small step can you take today to nourish yourself, to create that sense of balance and well-being?
Remember, you're not alone in this. We all have these needs. And meeting them, it's how we create a world where everyone can truly thrive.
It's a big idea, for sure. But Kevin really thinks it could, level the playing field, so we're not all just scrambling to survive.
And then we can focus on other stuff, like building connections, finding our purpose.
Exactly. And it all goes back to what we've been talking about, prioritizing needs, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Because when we ignore those needs, when we're constantly coming from a place of I don't have enough, it messes things up.
It creates this ripple effect of negativity.
Totally. My well-being is connected to yours, to everyone's, even to the planet's. It's all a big web.
Yeah, that's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It is. And it's a good point to remember as we wrap up this deep dive. Think about everything we've talked about today, all of these needs and how they fit together.
So when we're feeling lost, overwhelmed, where do we even start?
Kevin says go back to the basics, the simple stuff.
Check in with ourselves, see what's missing.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what need am I neglecting? What can I do, even a small thing, to take care of myself?
It's about self-care.
but not in a selfish way. It's about recognizing that it's important, essential even.
And those bad behaviors we talked about,
The ones we judge so harshly.
they might just be signals, like a cry for help.
So instead of judging, try being curious. Ask, what's this behavior trying to tell me?
What need is it trying to meet?
Right. And by understanding those needs, by figuring out how to meet them, that's where the healing happens. That's where we grow. That's where real connection comes from.
It's like Kevin says, it's not just about getting by. It's about thriving, creating a life that has meaning, that feels connected to something bigger.
So as you go about your day, just take a moment, check in, see what you're hungry for, what's calling to you, and ask yourself, what small step can I take today to nourish myself, to feel more balanced, more at peace?
And remember, you're not on this journey alone. We all have these needs. And figuring out how to meet them, that's how we create a world where everyone can thrive.
So what did you think of that AI summary of my recent episode about your most basic needs? It really kind of pulls things together and puts it in hopefully a way that is something that you can implement in your own life. And I'd love to hear what you have to say or what you think about prioritizing these most basic needs in life and how you can't just do a basic need once because they're basic. We have to do them over and over pretty much every single day of life in order to really function at our best, optimal, and happiest selves. So go to the show notes, please, and join this episode's uchiTribe, and let's have a deeper conversation about this topic that I think is just so critically important to all of us leading our best and happiest lives. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Question It. Remember, growth happens outside your comfort zone, so keep experimenting with life and embracing change. If you enjoyed this episode, please connect with me in the show notes, leave a 5-star review on the platform of your choice, and please join this episode's uchiTribe to dig into deeper conversation with me and fellow listeners. Until next time, peace, love, and connect.